This time, I'd like to call the county council meeting to order. For those of you who are used to seeing a gentleman sitting here, he's out of the country this week, so y'all get the pleasure of having me sit at this table at the front. If you'll please stand with me for invocation and pledge of allegiance. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings. We thank you for the opportunity and the freedoms to govern ourselves. Please protect our men and women in uniform. Watch over them and their families. Bless them for their sacrifice and for putting their lives on the line to serve us. I pray for wisdom and guidance to all of us serving in public office, those at the national, state, and local levels. I would ask that our decisions that we make would be wise, fair, and just, and most importantly, that they be rooted in facts, not politics, and that the decisions be in the best interest of the people that we serve. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, before we get to the items on the agenda, I have a motion to amend the agenda to add public hearing item number 4 regarding rates and fees ordinance. If I can get a second, I'll read the council to hold a public hearing of an ordinance to amend the code of the County of York, South Carolina, Chapter 31, entitled County Policies, Section 31.01, Rates, Fees, and Charges for Zoning Appeals, Applications for Variances, Rezoning Requests, Permits, Inspections, Plan Reviews, and other applications, procedures and services rendered by the York County Planning and Development Department and the York County Engineering Department, subsection A, in order to clarify the application of fees to acreage involved in a revision to an approved plan, to add an application fee for a detention waiver or environmental compliance variance, to increase the fee for water and sewer re-inspections, to revise the names of Maintenance Guarantee Fund to Improvement Guarantee Fund, and Driveway Culvert and Apron Fund to Driveway Access Fee, to increase the fees for the Improvement Guarantee Funds and Driveway Access, to remove fees applicable to standard roadways and for paving bonds, to otherwise reformat Section 31.01A to hold a public hearing and to provide for other matters relating thereto. And again, this will, is there any discussion on this item? Yeah. Thank you very much. This will be added as public hearing number 4, and I'll just refer to it when we get to that point as rates and fees ordinance. And basically, this is to make sure that the public hearing that was noticed in the paper is something that's added to the agenda. Third reading on this will actually be had at the next council meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the motion carries. At this time, we'll have the oath of office for the newly appointed boards and commission members. If these folks would join us up front, Randy McCurry for the Flint Hill Fire Tax Board, Ira Coltharp, Flint Hill Fire Tax Board, James White, Newport Fire Tax Board, William Mitchell, Newport Fire Tax Board, Donald Mitchell, York County Forever, District 3, and Stephen Hamilton, York County Forever, ex officio. Appearances, Keep York County Beautiful to present their annual report.
Hello, my name is April Hershey, representing Keep York County Beautiful. On behalf of KYCB, we appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and would first like to thank a few individuals: York County Council, York County Management, York County Public Works, specifically Eric Reckert, Director, and Ryan Blank, Assistant Director, York County Solid Waste Collection and Recycling Administrative Staff, specifically Allison Woodruff and Leslie Hatchell. We are now celebrating our 9th anniversary to inspire and engage citizens to take personal responsibility for improving the environment of their York County community. Over 449 volunteer hours this year, valued at over $11,418. KYCB also received over $15,000 in grants last year from the following organizations: Keep South Carolina Beautiful, Palmetto Pride, and in addition received the Keep America Beautiful President's Circle Recognition Award and the Keep South Carolina Beautiful Outstanding Performance Program Award. The total value to York County this year was $26,853. Grants and awards to KYCB has earned to date over $130,000. Not bad for 9 years. KYCB also conducts the Keep America Beautiful Litter Index. The Litter Index is a tool used to visually assess the amount of litter present in a community. Each year, groups of 4 to 5 people drive around York County on a predetermined sample of roads and rate the amount of litter that is visible. The scale is from 1 to 4, with a 1 being minimal to no litter and 4 being extremely littered. In 2014, we requested a new set of randomly selected roads in each school district for the next 5 years of measurements. We will begin examination of another set of roads for the 2020 index. The overall score for 2018 was 1.54, and 2019 will be done at the end of this summer. The KYCB board is not only a planning board, but also a hands-on working board who truly love where we live. York County residents are encouraged to volunteer at events with us. KYCB project focus areas include waste reduction and recycling, litter prevention and beautification, and outreach and education. A couple of the waste reduction and recycling programs and events include America Recycles Day 5th grade adventures. Rotational workshops occur at the new Material Recovery Center with more than 500 students in attendance. Earth Day Birthday that had over 1,300 people attend this year at the museum. Classroom presentations and material recovery facility tours and other community events take up the entire year. Along with litter prevention and beautification projects and programs, such as the Great American Cleanup, the 2019 theme was Not in My Yard. A year-long volunteer litter programs for individuals, groups, churches, and businesses, such as Adopt a County Road and Litter Challenge, and Adopt Your Spot, It's Your Business. Adopt Your Spot, It's Your Business provides tools and recognition for businesses and organizations wishing to be litter-free. KYCB also gives out mini grants. We received funding this year to assist other community organizations in funding projects that promote beautification in areas such as rights-of-way, medians, building exteriors, parks, or other natural areas in order to improve the York County environment, with preference given to projects benefiting pollinators. Part of our outreach and education are scholarships. KYCB provided 3 $500 college scholarships for York County students, and this is the 4th year of this program. And the Dr. T. Less Litter presentations, reaching over 2,000 students. We encourage everyone to follow us on social media. Thanks to Allison and Leslie, we have a very active social media on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Finally, we want everyone to love where you live, which is our KYCB slogan. We invite our neighbors of York County to become involved in their community and improve their environment. And this includes any members in your constituents in your districts. Anytime they come to you with issues of environmental concern, encourage them to be a part of this board. We are always looking for new board members as well as volunteers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, April. At this time, David Hudspeth will present a brief update on the small area plans.
Good evening. Just like to talk about where we're going to, what council has talked about and identified as one of our goals for growth management. If you remember back, we've been talking about this since as early as February of this year. Council identified a number of goals. One of those was growth management goal. The first key strategy identified by council was suggested overlays. We talked about as many as 4. At the time we were calling overlays, we have since begun calling those small area plans. What is a small area plan? It's really just a smaller, more detailed, comprehensive plan for certain areas throughout the county. We have a comprehensive plan currently that addresses land use and goals for each area, each parts of the county. This is a more comprehensive look at areas identified by council to promote whatever goals council has for those particular areas. What we need from council tonight is really just to kind of confirm the areas that staff has been working on to determine what those goals for each of those areas will be and direct staff to progress on with the project. Staff has identified 4 areas that we have been working on to some extent, doing some preliminary research, and would like to continue working on and provide workshops to council in the future. But we have identified those as the I-77 corridor, the Dave Lyle Boulevard to the Catawba River, Lake Wiley area, and a light rail corridor. To show you more specifically, we'll go through the I-77 corridor. It's a 2-mile on each side of I-77 with the purpose of being to promote economic development in the area and protect residential neighborhoods and commercial properties. So this is would extend from the Cherry Road area to the county line. Next one we identified was the Dave Lyle to the Catawba River. There was previously a Dave Lyle small area plan done several years ago that contemplated the development of the Newland property. With the county's purchase of the property, that has changed all the dynamics in the area. So we feel like that is simply abandoning that old plan and doing a new plan based on current circumstances. Third one we have identified is the Lake Wiley area, and the boundaries are pretty well known for that. To provide a more detailed land use plan for this high growth area. So we have identified Lake Wiley as the third. And the fourth and final corridor or small area plan would be the light rail corridor. That is something we have already begun discussions with Rock Hill, Fort Mill, and would probably be administered or managed by the RFATS group. They've done those previously for light rail or mass transportation, and it would be an update of that plan or actually of a brand new plan. But again, the county would participate in that, but RFATS would really be the primary driver for that plan. So, and, pardon me? Well, we have not really identified where that route would be. We know where the old routes were considered, and I think logic would dictate where they would go, but there is a downtown Rock Hill component of it being considered. So that would all come out of the development of this plan.
With RFATS, we have not really pushed all the way down to Rock Hill. We're looking more like at Gold Hill Road, somewhere in that area. But I mean, with the changes now with the Panthers, you know. But anyway, you plan ahead, so.
Right, it would certainly be considered. Ultimately, you'd have to wait for the results of the plan to see where they would be. But council in their February goal-setting session, came up with a maximum of 4. So we've identified 4. They seem pretty logical based on what council has talked about previously. And we've begun some preliminary research on those areas and just small area plans in general. So what we'd like for council tonight is just kind of an endorsement that this is the track you want us to proceed on. We would envision a workshop probably in July to give you a lot more detailed information on where we are and where we need to go with each of the plans, the sequencing, all that sort of thing. But I guess in order to continue work, we need to know that these are the 4 plans that we need to be working on.
I know Chris and I have been talking about that Porter Road exit. I guess this map is not as detailed for me to be able to understand it, but I don't see that area.
It would extend to the I-77 plan.
So it does go down
Go to
as far as Porter Road, okay. Because I can't make out this map on my monitor. I need to go see Britt for some glasses.
There you go. Repeat that, I couldn't hear you, sir.
David, I appreciate you taking the lead on that. I definitely, as I understand it, we're going to have a workshop as early as July 9th, maybe? Is that when we're moving forward?
9th or 11th, I can't remember the exact date. 9th, okay.
I definitely think the council has said that their strategic plan, and we're looking forward to making some progress on that.
And we'll have a lot more information for you at that time, but we're just trying to give you an overview tonight.
Yeah.
Dave, a couple things that looks good to me. There is some talk about maybe a little bit of an overlay in terms of kind of minimizing the warehouse structures on South 77 or some other, so that might be a consideration to think about. And then also for the Dave Lyle Boulevard extension for right-of-way to help alleviate some of the burdens in the Fort Mill area, that sooner or later that southern bypass is going to have to occur, so kind of including right-of-way.
Well, certainly the warehousing issue has been a consideration with the I-77 plan, but those are things that we would expect to come out of the research and everything that we do in the small area plan. We'd like to start out with some council goals, and we understand that is a goal of council. So, but we don't want to start with the conclusion. We want to do the plan and figure out what is best for the county.
Understood.
I'll just say, thank you. I know we've talked about this for a good while, and, eventually we're probably gonna need some of these on my side of the county, but right now, this is the growth is hitting these 4 areas, and so, I've said all along I would support those areas because they need the help. And the good thing about the small area plan is we can adapt these as the growth comes this way to try to help keep us from getting buried like some other parts of the county have, so.
Thank you, David. Did you get what you needed?
Yeah, you turn this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move into the public forum session. This is a spot where folks are allowed to sign up to speak at 2-minute intervals, and it's capped at a certain number of folks. It doesn't look like we're going to exceed that, but I hate cutting people off, so please remember that it's 2 minutes. It starts blinking up here on the right, and so just you may want to glance over at that so I don't have to cut you off and be rude. The first person I see who signed up is Ellen Goff.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Goff. I live at 981 Bonham Road. I am here tonight to thank you for the long but comprehensive revisions that the county has done on the stormwater ordinance. Having been intimately familiar with this situation for over 2.5 years, we've come a long way. And I want to thank you all in advance at this 3rd reading for having the foresight and the leadership to bring us up to a level of best practices for protecting water quality, our lakes and streams, and to bring some common sense to our development ordinances that will protect all landowners, not just those around the lake, but everyone who lives in or near a creek or a stream. I think really a shout out to David Huspeth and his team, because for the last little over a year, they have made this job one, and have been very thoughtful in including stakeholders from the wide spectrum of interested parties. So as a board member of the Catawba Riverkeeper Foundation and as one of your representatives on the Lake Wylie Marine Commission, I can tell you that this is the issue of stormwater management and sediment pollution is the #1 concern for both groups. And I can't thank you enough for making these changes and having the talent that we have on staff these days to protect everyone in the county. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen, and right on time. And thank you for remembering to state your address, if other folks will remember to do that when they come up. Billy Hagner.
Billy Hagner, I live at 1901 Voyager Road. I'm here tonight to support the proposed stormwater ordinance. I did come to y'all back in April in the public hearing in support of it. Since that time, I did attend a workshop that the county had concerning the ordinance. I think it's a good ordinance, and I really would encourage y'all to vote for it. I would like to remind you that back in September of 2015, David McCorkle and I came and made a presentation, made a proposal about a lake called the Lake Wylie Critical Watershed Proposal. And it was very positively received by y'all, and the planning department said they could probably have something similar to that done in a year. And here we are now 4 years out, and we are just now hopefully going to get one. So I would just like for y'all to support it. Some of you may say, well, we don't need it in my part of the county. However, there are areas of the county that definitely does need it. So I hope that all y'all will look at the overall good for the growth areas of the county and the areas around the lake, because we definitely do need some type of additional ordinances and requirements to protect our lake and streams. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. We have Christine Baldizzi.
Hi, my name is Christine Baldizzi, 2037 Curry Lane, Lake Wylie, South Carolina. I just wanted to say thank you to the planning staff for their efforts to bring in before you an ordinance that will benefit the people of your county, as well as to protect our water source from unmanaged runoff during the development stage. Thank you for your favorable vote tonight, and it is appreciated. And I just wanted to say thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Childers.
Scott Childers, 1349 Filbert Highway. It's gonna be hard for me to do this in 2 minutes, but I'm gonna go. So item number one, well, first of all, thanks to staff. Staff's done a great job on this. I think when we had the meeting, they thought it was developer versus residents, right? And that's not at all where the meeting went. So I think it was 2 very good meetings, and I appreciate that from staff standpoint, everything they've done. So I want y'all to know staff has really taken this seriously with everything they've done with us as the community. Item number one, the 5,000 square feet, and this is in the design manual, section 1.2. And I've said this since the beginning. I think I might even said this the first time I came in front of y'all, but I don't necessarily agree with the 5,000 square foot for someone who's just building a house somewhere. It's hard to stand at that number. I've always said close to a quarter an acre, which is close to 10,000 square feet, but that's just the number. So I'm just letting y'all know my opinion on that one. Section 2.13.3 for notice of terminations. I actually talked to Mark this morning about this one because we had probably 40-something people looking at this thing, and we all missed it, I think. This is not a negative towards the environment or anything. It's just verbiage. It basically says when you get your land disturbance permit, you can read it legally as the NOT must be filed if you don't start work in 30 days. That is not at all the intent. So I think the verbiage needs to be revised there. And staff has suggestion on land disturbance activities were never initiated on the construction site, and the construction site remains permanently stabilized upon the expiration date of the original land disturbance permit. It reads as if you get the permit, you gotta start in 30 days, and I don't think anybody believes that that's gonna happen sometimes, especially if you have bad weather or something. So I think that's just a verbiage change. And then section 3.1.8, the 1,000 feet from streams, I have suggested that's too much. I think that's putting the Lake Wiley buffer or Lake Wiley area on the whole county. I don't think that was original intent. And we had discussed 500 feet. So those are the three major items that I say major. They're not really major, but I think those are things that you should consider overall for the ordinance.
I know all of you thought you'd gotten rid of me, but here I am again. Bruce Bryant, 4015 Kingfisher Drive. I just want to say thank you also. I mean, the work that has been going on behind the scenes to make this maybe come true, to protect our lake, protect our waterways. If you've not had a chance, I challenge each of you to ride out to Lake Wiley, even right now. For the last probably 5 or 6 days, the water is red. I had 2 of my grandchildren that was at my house this past weekend, and I would not let them in the water. It would have just not only ruined their bathing suits, but maybe have ruined their health. And against my seawall, and I've been out at Lake Wiley for 27 years, I've owned property on Lake Wiley on the main channel. And probably, I just want to say, I've never seen Lake Wiley in such a horrible condition as it is today. Even yards flowing down the waterways, all type of building material. And I'm not talking about old logs. Certainly there were logs and debris that ran down the river and floated down the river, but I'm talking about new construction. I'm talking about, look like brand new 2x6s and 2x4s and cedar paneling and just an array of everything, and it looked brand new. So, you know, people wanted to know what is the need of the stormwater system that we're looking at, and what can we do to improve the quality of our lake. You folks are doing it, and I just want to say thank you very, very much.
We knew we'd never get rid of you. Don Clark.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Don Clark, Catawba Nuclear Neighbors, 3878 Concord Road in York. I also would like to speak in support of the stormwater changes to the ordinance. I've addressed this council several times with regard to stormwater issues and new construction-related incidents. Many of us here, citizens, attended the engineers roundtable, and I'd have to say I would agree with the man who just spoke. I thought the interchange was excellent. I'd like to thank the staff for all the work that went into this. Catawba Nuclear Neighbors was formed about 13 years ago when Duke first made mention of selling the land, the buffer land, between the plant and the river. That land was put up again for sale in 2017. It is now under contract. And it is going through planning consideration right now. So this land has never been developed. It's bounded on 3 sides by the lake. There's approximately 2 miles of shoreline that are exposed to construction related incidents. We've seen what can happen with the Bonham Road spill and the Mattamy spill into Jefferson Creek, where just one drainage was involved. Here you've got almost 2 miles of exposure on the lake. So this stormwater ordinance is so timely and so comprehensive. I'd like to thank you all for your positive votes on this, and thank the staff and the council for paying attention to this very serious problem. Thank you very much.
My mic keeps going off. At this time, on the consent agenda, it's my understanding that we need to remove number 23, and I'll move it to number 2 in new business. Are there any other items that we need to remove from consent agenda?
So we're moving 23 out.
Do number
Moving 23 from consent to number 2 under new business. Is there any other items any other council member has? Do we have a motion on consent agenda?
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I believe first item is our public hearing. Council to hold public hearing on proposed amendments to the animal control ordinance of the County of York, South Carolina, Chapter 55 regarding animals. As noted in the agenda, the ordinance amendments were referred back to the Public Works Committee on June 3rd, 2019. So the public hearing will not be held at this time, but will be re-advertised for a future council meeting. Just want to reiterate, well, can we get a motion?
Madam Chairperson, could we ask for this to be deferred until it completes committee review?
Do I have a second? Second. For folks who are here, it was advertised as a public hearing, but we are going to move this until it's pulled out, assuming this vote is unanimous, which I thought it would be. But you certainly are going to get an opportunity to speak if you must, but really your comments would best be had at the public hearing. That way it'll be made part of the record with the public hearing. At this time, I'd like the council to, all those in favor of the motion?
Can I just make one?
Sure,
more
sure, we can
issue
move to
about- So you think we can do that in the next 30 days, like by mid-June? Mid-July?
We have a workshop. We need to reschedule. Well, we need to schedule another committee meeting, and since we're only meeting once in July, we probably won't have it back before council since we're only meeting once. And I will be out of town for part of July. So we'll probably, if best, we can probably have a committee meeting during July and try to get it back before council in August.
At the latest, we'll do August at the latest, probably.
Whatever it takes to get it out of committee.
Okay.
If there's no comments or other discussion, at this time I would, given the comments we previously made, is there anyone here who still wants to speak in favor? Is there anyone here who still wants to speak in opposition to this motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. We don't have a vote on it. It's just a public hearing, so I think we're good. Oh, yeah. So all those in favor of deferring the item to the next council meeting until after it's been released from the committee? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 2, public hearing. Council to hold a public hearing and consider amending and third reading of an ordinance to amend the code of the County of York, South Carolina, disposal of waste at county landfill, Chapter 33, Sections 50.02 and 50.33B and E, in order to define material recovery facility and recyclable materials, to provide for an increase in fees for the disposal of municipal solid waste, construction and demolition debris, and land clearing debris at the county landfill, to add fees for clean concrete, brick, block, and asphalt, and for the acceptance and processing of recyclable materials, to provide a fee exemption provision, and to provide for other matters relating thereto. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here who would like to speak against this ordinance?
Motion to close?
Second.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. On, any motion on the third reading?
Move to approve. Need to approve it, don't we?
Yep.
Yep, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Having none, the motion carries. Public hearing, item number 3, council to hold a public hearing and provide second reading of an ordinance authorizing the county's sale of its speculative building located in East York Industrial Park, located at 1725 Genthy Court, York, South Carolina 29745, described as a plus or minus 40,000 square foot industrial building on or about 11.6 acres, sold as is, where is, to Five Star Holdings LLC and identified by tax map numbers 40000000020, as is more particularly shown on the combination plat with part of parcel 40000000002, filed in the York County Register of Deeds Plat Book 158, page 368, with such sale evinced by the purchase and sale agreement attached hereto, approving the agreement and its execution, authorizing the chairman and other county officials to further execute such documents incident to the closing and sale of the property, including the deed for the property, providing for a public hearing, and providing for other matters related thereto. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak against this ordinance?
Move to close.
Second.
All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the motion carries. Do I have a motion for second reading?
Move to approve second reading.
Second.
Any discussion?
We have to kind of recover our investment a little bit, so I'm certainly in favor of this, but this was a location that I expressed a lot of concern about when it first was proposed, so I hope we kind of learn a lesson from this one.
Is this the one we're taking a little hit on?
Lump on?
For clarification purposes, I'd like to say for clarification purposes, or get our treasurer maybe to state how much of a hit or how this is. I know we've talked about it a lot as far as the taxpayers, because what we're saying right now is it sounds like taxpayers are losing money on this, and this is grants and other stuff, and so there's. I just want to make sure there's not a misunderstanding out there on this thing. So.
Yes, sir. The only taxpayer money of the general fund that's going on that was the retention pond that was built. State grant covered most of that. Before the allocation of the loss was given out to everybody that did chip in money, that the taxpayers are being kept whole in the calculation right now. So the general fund will get back, it's approximately $77,000 back to the general fund to keep the general fund whole. York Electric is going to get $480,000 so back from their contributions. They're getting basically back 60%, 60 cents on the dollar what they put into it. The rest of the general fund, we're going to receive about $800,000 that management recommends goes back in the general fund under the Economic Development, Product Development Committed category that y'all control.
So to sum it all up, our investment, we're getting everything back that the general fund released to the.
Yes, sir. The general fund is going to be kept whole.
Gotcha. Okay.
As I understand, is there anybody else who has a comment? Just to wrap it up, I do think that we obviously need to sell this. Is my understanding that the 2.1 that was invested to sell it for 1.6 still is an issue. I think we need to spend a little bit more time as a council when we approve these spec buildings and consider whether or not they're actually translating into something that's beneficial for the community. And at a minimum, I think it might be one of those areas that we remove spec building sales from FILO incentives, or at least from that 10% going in the product development fund. And it seems like all of the tax money from these things ought to go back to the public. Having said that, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposition. Motion carries. Moving on to number 4, public hearing regarding rates and fees ordinance that was read earlier at the beginning of this meeting. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of that rates and fees ordinance? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak against that ordinance?
Motion to close?
Second.
All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to old business, council to consider third reading of an ordinance to amend the code of the County of York, South Carolina to amend Chapter 152, Stormwater Management and Sediment Control in order to protect, maintain, and enhance the environment of York County and the short-term and long-term public health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of York County by establishing requirements and procedures to control the potential adverse effects of increased stormwater runoff associated with both future development and existing developed land, to comply with the federal and corresponding state stormwater discharge NPDES regulations, 40 CFR 122.26 and SC Regulation 61-9.122.26, developed pursuant to the Clean Water Act, and to ensure that York County has the authority to take any action required by it to obtain and comply with its NPDES permit for stormwater discharges, to approve the York County Stormwater Management Design Manual related to the implementation of the requirements of Chapter 152, and to provide for other matters relating thereto.
Madam Chairperson, may I make a motion to approve, are you over there, David? With the clarifications that we talked about, can you help me here and spell them out? I think it's section 1.2, 2.133, and 3.18, if I wrote it down correctly.
I think I can handle 2 of those. I may enlist Mark Boland to talk about the third one because it's a little bit of a technical point.
Okay.
But there's 3 issues that were raised. The new ordinance applies to properties that are 5,000 square feet to 1 acre. Or it applies to all properties, but it treats those properties in a certain way. They require a simplified plan, which is something that does not require an engineer, but can be simply drawn on to a survey to show where your silt fence and all that sort of thing is going to be. We had suggested 5,000 square feet to 1 acre would fall into that category. I think the suggested change would raise that up 10,000 square feet to 1 acre. So below 10,000 square feet, all you need to do is obtain a building permit. So that's the first one.
Okay. So as noted.
Pardon me?
As noted, that's part of my motion.
Okay. The second one, I'm going to let Mark explain, but I'm going to go into the third one that we also talked about. Does offer additional protections for Lake Wiley by requiring higher standards of design for properties within 3/4 of a mile of the lake. We're not proposing that change. However, in that, we also required if you were within 1,000 feet of a perennial blue line stream. That covers a large portion of York County. So it has been suggested that we bring that back down to if you're within 500 feet of a perennial stream.
For clarification on that, when we talk about Lake Wiley, it also includes in there the Catawba and the Broad Rivers in that
Correct.
3/4 of a mile, correct?
It does.
Okay.
So I failed to mention that.
So that's part of my motion, as you just stated, 500 feet.
500 feet would be of a perennial stream. The
Right.
2 rivers and the lake would still be 3/4 of a mile.
Right, exactly. So the lake and the rivers are well covered. This is just somebody way out in the boondocks and they got a gully running behind their house or something, so they're not, have too much angst.
And if I could, I'll let Mark explain, just to clarify, the language regarding the 30-day period.
Yes, under that section 2.13.3, notice of termination, and it's the fourth bullet. Land disturbance activities were never initiated on the construction site, and the construction site remains permanently stabilized. The intent here was that, of course, our land disturbance permits that are issued and so forth have a 5-year life cycle before they expire. So by this, I would recommend that we add to that sentence at the end, upon the expiration date of the original land disturbance permit. So that would allow that, if there's no work that's initiated, you've got your land disturbance permit issued, you don't do any work for up to the 5-year period. At that point, we ask that at the expiration date, so forth, that you file for a notice of termination so we can close that permit out.
Okay. So I'll take that one too.
Okay.
I like making motions.
Michael
this way.
Kendry, do we have a clear motion?
Well, I wasn't taking the notes on the clear motion, but it would be a motion to amend the ordinance as written, designating the 5,000 square foot, excuse me, the 10,000 square foot
Per section 1.2, I
per
think.
section 1.2, the
500
additional
foot.
language for section 2.13.3 regarding the 5-year duration of the permit.
Notice of
and-
termination.
And the, yes, sir, and the 1,000-foot designation from perennial streams in section 3.1.8
It's changed to 500 feet.
to 500 feet. Thank you, sir.
Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? No discussion? I think I just would like clarification from Mark. As amended, do you still believe that this is a good ordinance that accomplishes the goals that the council intended to do without unnecessarily interfering with private property owners? Specifically, I think some of these things were to address folks that own property out on the western side in my district and Robert's district, but to allow us to make some changes with the Lake Wiley area. So I guess I'm wanting to hear you bless this.
Absolutely, ma'am. I do really strongly support this ordinance and the design manual, focusing not only the built-up areas or the growing areas in the eastern part of the county, but it also addresses the western part of the county.
Thank you, Mark. All those in, of course.
Mentioned by a few people that spoke that the watershed district proposal, we said to move forward on that as a council 3 or 4 years ago, but that kind of died in the government bureaucracy functioning apparatus. So as far as the council's concerned, we were moving forward on that.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now to the first item under new business, council to consider the 2019 hospitality tax marketing grant applications.
Move to approve.
Any discussion?
Just one quick question.
Mike?
Well, one quick question. This is H-tax money. We will see A-tax in July?
Yes, sir, that's
Okay.
the expectation.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
I have a couple questions on a couple applications. I know I reached out to Kevin over the weekend to try to get some explanation, but I just wanted to kind of have some dialogue publicly on some of the applications that we did see come in. And my question was about the South Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association. Is this the first time they've solicited funds from?
Yes, sir.
And so kind of what's the gist of what they're looking to do, to come in, just promote restaurants for a week?
Yes, sir.
Like, I guess if they score high enough to get the funding, but it's just, you know, and I see they're coming out of Columbia to promote York County restaurants.
Yes, sir. And one thing about that, remember, the hospitality tax is generated from is generated from those mills. There's a 2% tax levied on that, so they will specifically drive up more hospitality tax revenue in the unincorporated area. I believe there's some restaurants in Miss Love's districts that are going to be on that little event that they have. So the committee, and I don't disagree with the committee's logic behind this, felt like this will drive additional hospitality tax revenue and was worthy of the scores that they were given.
So, and I just wanted to say, I agree with Councilman Roddy that that was something that was kind of new that was on here, and I asked that same question. So I think it's something that is pretty much, in my opinion, I'm looking at it kind of as a trial run for them to see what happens.
I'll just say I'm glad to see some new ones on there, because that's one of the things we've said in the past is we don't want to keep giving the money to the same ones that are existing and on their own feet. We've asked people to come forward with new ideas for new things, so I'm glad to see some.
Any other discussion? Yes?
I'd like to thank the Hospitality Tax Committee for the work that they put in reviewing these. They have 3 separate workshops where they educate the applicants, and then they spend a lot of time reviewing the applicants and do a very good job, and I appreciate the effort that they put into that.
Yes, I see Nick Cotton here. I appreciate all the work that you guys have done and put into this. As to the motion, all council members approving the hospitality tax marketing grant applications, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Number 2, which is item 23 from consent agenda, council to approve contract renewal regarding transport services for use by the coroner's office with Carolina Bio Cleanup LLC of Rock Hill, South Carolina, for a total cost not to exceed $120,000. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve. Move to approve.
Pull that out. Who pulled that out?
Yeah,
I did. I'm going to explain.
maybe you can second.
Do we have a second?
I thought Britt did second, but I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Blackwell? Dr.
Well,
Blackwell?
the person that makes the motion has the first right.
Yeah, but we all know who started this.
Yeah, well, I made the motion because I support the coroner's request, and I said, we got to do something to transport those bodies, and so I approve, I support it.
So, I apologize. I was swamped today with patients. I didn't have a chance to call because I was planning to do it that way, but I didn't get a chance to do it, so I still had the question, so that's why I pulled it out. So my question was, back 2011, 2012, there was a little bit of controversy about this and who we used.
I remember.
And I think it was the people in Gastonia. So now this was 2015, so that was past that. But I just wanted to get clarification on the company. This is not tied into the Gastonia company?
Yes, sir, this is
No,
not tied
wait a
in it.
minute. Number 2 is I looked up the address, and it seemed like it was just a residential home address right off Mount Gallant. So that threw me off, and that kind of made me more motivated to ask the question.
I can't answer any of the questions about the address.
Okay.
That's something we could look into if you want to defer this to the next meeting. And what we'll do, just so y'all know, if y'all did choose to defer this, it's not like we wouldn't transport bodies. We would put that account on override so she could still do her job while we got those questions answered.
I hate to defer things. I like for us to move forward, so I'm not gonna, unless other council members want to, but do you know at least if this is the same company that created all the controversy 6-7 years ago?
No, sir, it's not
It's
supposed
a
to.
totally different company? Okay. If you could, just let me know about the residential thing, but
Because that's in your district, right?
it is.
So what's kind of the concern? Is it that maybe it's not a reputable company or a local company?
Well, there was concern, this was going back years ago, I just happened to remember when I was reading over the agenda, so it just popped back in my head. But there was concern about it wasn't handled properly or the appropriate company was chosen in the proper way, things like that. And it was an out-of-state company that we could have used somebody in-state. There was a lot of stuff flying about it. So I just happened, that little birdie popped back in my head, so I wanted clarification. I was planning to call just to make sure it wasn't the same company, but I just dropped the ball and wasn't able to, so.
I remember that. It was something about the company didn't have the equipment, but they were gonna purchase the equipment if they got the contract. And he was saying he should have been given so many days to secure those items if he got awarded the contract, and I think it stated that you had to have them, and we kinda went back and forth. I remember that scenario.
And, you know, seeing the name change like this, and I'm looking up the address, and it's a residential street, so that created the question. But as long as it's not the same company that created all this uproar, I'll trust the system to function properly.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Committee and other reports, Public Works Committee, the Honorable Chairman Bumpy Roddy.
Excuse me. Yes, on Friday, Public Works Committee met at 2 p.m. on Heckle. Dr. Blackwell, Councilmember Love was there, and we were reviewing the animal control, the pet ordinance, as I like to call it, going back through some things, and we kind of hit a standstill on some understanding of what we actually voted into back in 2012. We went through some scenarios, and we've asked staff to pull as much minutes, audio, video, whatever they can pull. One of the big items that was mentioned on Friday, excuse me, was the tethering aspect of the pet ordinance that was passed back in 2012. There seemed to be some discrepancy or misunderstanding as to what was voted on or what was presumed to be put in the ordinance. So we're going now back with staff to clarify some things. But basically what Bobby's looking to do is clean up some of the verbiage, some of the redundant language that we have in the ordinance. And it did come up about the tethering scenario. So we're trying to work through that part to go back to verify what we actually voted in and what was actually recorded back in 2012. Quickly over the weekend, the word spread of York County doing this, York County doing that, but that's not the case. I did want to kind of clear that up. It was just we're looking to verify now at this point what was actually voted on, and we'll bring that ordinance back to a committee meeting and hammer out a few more details. And like Councilmember Love said, we're going to try to get that back as soon as possible, but considering some of the vacation schedules that's coming up, we're going to try to get that done as quickly as possible. But Animal Control has made some tremendous strides over the last couple of years, and we look to continue along that path. We have some outstanding achievements that we've been touting here recently, and we want to keep that trend going. So we hope and we look to advance this ordinance back to full council as soon as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Roddy. Now we have council member new non-agenda comments. Do we have any comments?
I have one thank you that I'd like to give tonight, and that is to Councilman Roddy for spending an afternoon with me touring Lake Wiley. And it was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was fun. So anyway, I appreciate him taking about 3 hours plus a pretty good reception at one of our local restaurants there, just to kind of, get a feel for what we deal with about 5:30 every afternoon. So
Oh my goodness, who paid for that dinner?
I did.
Okay.
I appreciate you coming and doing that, Bump.
Well, I want to return the gratitude and thanks for Councilmember Love inviting me. It was certainly, I call it the Gilligan's 3-hour tour of Lake Wiley, which she took me into some places that I probably wouldn't have never driven, just going to Lake Wiley just to kind of hang out and see the sights and scenes. And I thank her for it, and she's going to return the favor. And I challenge and I invite each of the other council members to take her up on her tour and kind of get this, let me see what's going on in your district scenario, because we are kind of, sometimes we do get tunnel vision as to what we're looking at or what's going on in our districts. And I thank her for extending the opportunity just to go over to show me some of the roads and ropes of what they're dealing with. And it does kind of help paint a clear picture when you hear her speaking of something that's going on over in Lake Wiley. If you've never seen it before, you can only just try to have an imagination of what a council member is talking about. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I look forward to hosting you in District 4 real soon.
I'll be there.
Anyone else?
I do have one point. And it's kind of brought home by the stormwater ordinance that we talked about. I know we're getting more proactive about workshops, but all these changes occurred with staff working with some engineers over the past 2 weeks or so, I guess, since the last meeting. And this is engineering language, so it was a lot of hustling on our part to kind of absorb this. So it would be good for us to maybe have another meeting as council members so we can answer our questions and kind of absorb it a little bit before we have to vote on it as a permanent ordinance in fairness to the taxpayer. So that would just be the point I want to make.
We don't have any citizen concerns, do we, Karen? Okay. Do we have a motion for executive session?
Yes, move we go into executive session for contractual matter / personnel matter, the county manager's resignation and appointment of an interim manager.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We will move into executive session immediately.
That's about right.
Coming out of executive session, do we have any motions?
Yes, motion to accept, approve, and adopt the resignation of William Shanahan as manager of York County.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. On behalf of York County Council, we want to thank Mr. Shanahan for all of his years of service here at the county. We certainly extend best wishes to him on his future endeavors. Do we have any other motions?
Yes, motion to approve David Hudspeth as the interim manager with a 15% increase in his current salary.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We thank Mr. Hudspeth for serving as our interim county manager with over 35 years of experience in local government, 20 of those being in a manager or administrator capacity. We look forward to his help serving our county while we search for a new county manager. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.